Hello and welcome to Life on Pig Row leaflet series, Pig for Victory, and today we're doing tomatoes, and we're looking at how you can improve your tomatoes, what kind of groups tomatoes fall into, and more importantly, how you can get the best out of them now. For those of you who are more keen-eyed, you'll notice that we're in the polytunnel, and the reason for that is because we want to show you now a crop that's doing really well, and also a vine or tomato plant that's growing really well, and the problems that you can find with them. Now, tomatoes fall into two different groups, and some of you may have heard this before. There are the bush variety, and these are pretty much self-reliant, and you tend to find them growing outside. Tomatoes like Mamand, which is an excellent variety, and you absolutely do nothing to them. They just go away on their own, and you just feed them and make sure no nasty bugs get into them, and that you don't have any problems with them with the cold, which will happen with outside tomatoes. You also have what we call the cordon variety, which are the varieties we're growing this year at Pig Row, and these varieties are very simple to keep care of, but they do need support. So let's have a look at them. Well, there's several ways to support a tomato. We're using bamboo canes because they're very sturdy, or you can use a string system, which is literally, if you look at the tomato down here, you wind string around them, and that string is then attached to something very secure at the top. But as we're in a polytunnel, we don't have that unless we run another rail across, which we haven't done yet. But if you look here, this is a cordon variety, and the cordon variety, it's really simple. It has one main stem, but at each axil between the leaf and the main stem, it will be naughty. There's no getting away from it. These are plants from warm countries, and they want to spread as much as possible, and here we are, a naughty little side shoot. Now if I left that, it would fruit, but at the cost of the rest of the plant. You wouldn't get such big tomatoes. They may not set in time, they may not go red enough in time in our climate. So what we tend to do with cordon varieties, we go into the, get that naughty little side shoot and go, there you go, and it's as simple as that. It's snapped off. Now you can, believe it or not, if you have time, pot these up if you're in a warmer climate, and you will get another tomato plant. Did you know that? I bet you didn't. This will give you a lovely little tomato plant, but we don't have time. It's the end of July going into August, and this is consigned to one place only, the compost heap. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over these tomatoes because they've been neglected over the last few weeks because we've been that busy with the rest of the wartime garden that the polytunnel has been left to get on its own. But just to give you an idea of how fast tomato plants grow, these were planted 2 weeks before these were. Can you see the difference? I'm going to get it in shot. There's at least 2.5 foot difference between the plants over 2 weeks. That's how fast they grow if watered well and kept warm. We grow indoor varieties at Pig Row because we are subject to terrible weather some days, and we have done outside varieties before and we got blight. For those of you who think blight is only kind of part of potato world, well, it hits tomatoes as well, because here comes the news, folks. They're part of the same family, that's why. Now you may notice, other than the dodgy camera work, that some of the leaves on your tomato plants curl. And you may be wondering whether this is a virus or an infection of some sort, and you may be panicking. And all I've got to say is, don't panic. Really, don't panic. Really, really, really don't panic. All this is heat differences, heat differentials. Think about it, during the day, in your greenhouse, in your polytunnel, even outside if you grow outside varieties, we're having temperatures recently of anything from 25 Celsius up, 31 Celsius already recorded this year. But at night we're dropping down to 14, 15 C, unless we're in a city. But even still, even if we're in a city, we're only dropping down to 19 Celsius. That's sometimes over a 10-degree difference. Out in the countryside, It's nearly a 15-degree difference. Now, you know what you're like. If suddenly the temperature drops in your house, you reach for the jumper or you reach for the heating. Tomatoes don't have that luxury. They just curl up. That's all. It won't affect the fruit. It won't affect your crop. And after a while anyway, those leaves at the bottom of the vine, at the bottom of the plant, will be snapped off, which we're going to look at in a minute. So let's have a bit of a tidy up first, okay? So we've removed all the side shoots now. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie them in. And the idea is to tie it in, is to stop it flapping around and collapsing under its own weight. You'll notice sometimes when you start growing tomatoes that they grow in funny shapes. And the reason is that it's the sheer weight of the plant. And if you don't keep tying them in, or, as I said before, with the string wrapping it round as it grows up, then the plant will collapse. So it's simple as that. You take a piece of string, as I've just done here, you can have a look here. You turn it, you loop it around the cane in a figure of 8, then knot on the other side, and leave plenty of space in between, because this will get thicker. Hopefully it will get thicker, and you don't want it to be choked. Do you know how we were talking about those leaves before because of the cold and heat differences? As you see, there's one here at the bottom. Now we're getting to the point of the year where we don't actually need that much foliage on our tomatoes. It's certainly at the bottom, because a lot of the goodness that could be going into the tomatoes, like these, is being eaten up. So what we want to do is get rid of it. And it may look a bit brutal, but trust me, it lets more light in at the bottom for such things as a courgette behind and a chilli underneath. But also it lets air through and it lets light through, and it helps the tomatoes to set and ripen, and you'll feel better at the end of it. Trust me, you will feel better at the end of it. I mean, look at this plant here. It's got tomatoes on it. Look at that lower foliage. It's spent. It needs to come off. So just quickly take in hand between forefinger, pull up until it snaps, pull down, and it's gone. So there we have it, a trug full of tomato foliage from the bottom of the plants to be reused and recycled into compost. And if you look up now, here's our tomato plants all tied in, and doesn't that lovely?